it's a serious deal. You can almost compare it to the 9/11 of Bitcoin. Even myself, I held a Coldcard, MK3. It's a new paradigm shift.
AI-empowered Monarchy 2.0 featuring direct democracy.
There are going to emerge new kinds of political forces, new kind of governments. I never was a fan of monarchy at all. Monarchy 2.0, it's a totally different thing.
That might blow some people's minds, but use the Switzerland example, how a monarchy would help them.
One word.
What has us most excited for the future of Bitcoin for the rest of the 2020s?
There is still hot interest in Bitcoin. Bitcoin mining really is creating an energy renaissance.
Bitcoin actually still holds. It still holds its value. It still operates despite all the problems which it faces.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. We have Prince Filip, the Chief Strategy Officer of Jan3, and Alex Bragan, the CTO. This has been quite the week for Bitcoin. It does feel as if we as an ecosystem are under attack. Of course, I'm sure everyone watching this has heard about the Coldcard exploit by now. If you haven't, please move any Bitcoin you have on a Coldcard wallet off to safer pastures, whether that be an exchange or a hardware wallet. Something where you know the entropy was generated correctly. But beyond that, we are also dealing with AI attacks on critical infrastructure when it comes to Bitcoin. So I'd like to start this conversation with you, Alex, talking about what is going on in terms of the malicious AIs probing critical Bitcoin infrastructure and the fact that Boltz, the Lightning swap infrastructure, had to shut down this week and what that means for Aqua wallet.
Well, it's actually, I think the whole point of what has happened during the past week is that we actually, we all finally realized that AI is a really powerful tool. And not only for white hat hackers, but also apparently for black hat hackers. So in my opinion, it's just the very beginning, like the top of an iceberg of what we are going to experience later in future. Because for this attack, you can use some models to do this, and censorship of openly available tools is not going to solve this problem. So this actually led to very nice, very good decisions by Boltz and other infrastructure companies to temporarily shut down their services before they are actually getting hacked. So this is a wise decision, in my opinion.
Yes, and you guys shut down Lightning as well during the time being, correct?
Well, the thing is that we just had no other options rather than using Boltz. We are looking into other options, but obviously they have to be safe.
Yes, and Filip, over to you. I mean, in terms of strategy and dealing with humans, how has this hack of the Coldcard and the fallout afterwards affected you and the way that you think about Bitcoin and will pitch Bitcoin in the future?
Well, it hasn't actually affected Bitcoin. It's just affected the services attached to Bitcoin. And this, of course, it hasn't really reached the mainstream so much. I saw maybe an article on, was it Wall Street Journal or something like that they reported on it. But apart from that, there's been nothing reported on that. So maybe we might not get questioned on it at all. But for us who understand the industry, what's going on, it's a serious deal. You can almost compare it to it like the 9/11 of Bitcoin for us maximalists who really care about sovereignty and storing our Bitcoin in a safe place. Even myself, I was luckily unaffected in a bad way, but I held a Coldcard, MK3. I generated the keys on the Coldcard, but luckily I was using firmware that was pre-2021. I was using V3 firmware, not the affected V4 firmware. And this happened when I was on holiday, family vacation last week. And I remember getting the news when I woke up, and I usually check Twitter as you do because you're addicted to our phones. And luckily I checked Twitter and I was like, oh my God. And luckily I brought my setup with me because I needed it earlier in the vacation for something else. So I was sweating when I was getting my laptop open, trying to get into Sparrow. And next thing I know, I'm like sweating. Oh my God, how do I log in and things like that. And then I checked my balance. It was all there, but I instantly, took it out and I got a new setup for the time being. But for a moment there, I thought the worst. So going back to the strategy, is this really, we have to rethink about how AI, as Alex was detailing before, it's a paradigm. It's a new paradigm shift. But look, Bitcoin is anti-fragile. Bitcoin should be anti-fragile about it as well. This is only going to make us stronger. We have to learn from this.
We do. And it's been amazing to see the Bitcoin community stand up, help each other, find vulnerabilities, spend tens of thousands of dollars on the frontier AI models to probe all the different projects in Bitcoin to search for vulnerabilities.
And also, sir, one more thing, and hats off to all the Bitcoin community helping other Bitcoiners out there. I saw a lot of good faith out there, and that was really warming and really encouraging to see. We were very much a little bit divided before, maybe with a bit 110 situation, but I saw the Bitcoin community coming together, and there was a lot of good. It was encouraging to see. So you can continue.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that the last couple of years, there's been a lot about the financialization of Bitcoin, right? When it comes to ETFs and treasury companies, and less of an emphasis on self-custody, cold storage. And that's where I got into it, not your keys, not your coins, 2020, 2021. Everybody was talking about trying to have the most secure setup you can have. And that's when the Coldcard really took off. And many people purchased it because they thought it was the most advanced tech and hardware that they could hold their Bitcoin on. Alex, looking at the Coldcard exploit, is it forgivable? I mean, this thing's been alive on there for 5 years. What from a technical aspect did you see when you looked at it?
No, of course it's not forgivable, and it's a shady story, and we are actually watching it to unfold in real time. So we shall see the origins of this. Yeah, and actually this brings very important point to discussion. The firmware was open source. Yeah, so that was supposed to mean that a lot of other reviewers would review it and potentially see the issue, report it, and fix it. So it would be considered safer, like a safer thing. But it turned out that it's not. And we just had a discussion internally the other day in Jan3, which I sparked with my comments that I do not see open source as being a huge advantage as it was before. It's not that I consider going closed source, no way. But the thing is that open source doesn't guarantee you that there are no mistakes in the code. Unfortunately, it even facilitates work of malicious people to find vulnerabilities in the code. But no, it's not. There is no way to forgive that. Sorry.
But also, sorry to butt in. There was a lot of hats out there that were really brought attention to this. I think James O'Brien, I think his name was one of them, like in 2000 last year, who brought the attention to CoinKite about this, and nothing was done.
Yeah,
that's really worrying. That even though there's people out there checking the code with good faith people doing this, it was left to deaf ears, and that's really worrying. So I reiterate what Alex is saying, that with this new age of AI and this open source, you really got to have a good check on your systems, and people are going to be wanting to help you, but you have to listen to people. Ultimately, you really have to listen to people who really want to help.
You do. And I mean, one of the most interesting tidbits of the story is the fact that this firmware change happened because they went off of open source. They went to source available because a competitor took some of their code and made their own hardware device foundation, right?
That's why I was safe, because I was still using the firmware from V3, which was actually Trezor firmware from the open source. so thank you, Trezor.
So them going off of open source, CoinKite that is, means that there was less incentive for people to look at the code because they couldn't use it themselves for any commercial viable option over here. So, it's just so insane. The change from open source to source available is what sort of led to this whole entire problem to begin with. And when it does come to open source, you need to incentivize people to look at your code, to use it. Are there any bug bounty programs or anything that Aqua is doing to get other people's eyeballs on your code and ensure that it is safe?
Yeah, we do offer a bounty program, and we actually got some really nice bug reports which we paid for. So this is of course, I still believe in humanity and in white hackers and in people who do good stuff for the world. But still, we actually hired. We actually created a special role in the company, head of security, and this person is responsible for overseeing the security of all products using AI or whatever resources available or needed to make sure that our products are safe.
That's great to hear. It's necessary. You need a member of your team using AI to make sure that the attackers with AI are one step behind you. And Filip, over to you. I know you've studied a lot of history and philosophy and ethics. When it comes to the question of white hat hackers, those who are going out there and actually preemptively stealing Bitcoin so that the bad guys can't get it with the hopes that they can give it back to the rightful owners in the future, where do you land on this when it comes to ethics and the messiness of all that?
That's a good question. That's a tough question. It's well, where do I start with that? I think I go back to the point before that this is there's as Alex said, there's a lot of good humans out there. 99% of humans act in good faith, but there's that 1% who are out there who only think about themselves, selfish, and who will try and exploit anything and anything. But if you look at it ethically, if you don't look at the morals of this, is that Bitcoin is intended to help prevent that by going back to a sound money, to a hard money standard that's hard to break, and incentivize people to do good. And if you do good, Bitcoin does better and you do better. It's easier to do good with Bitcoin than attack Bitcoin, because you'll ultimately get egg in your face when people actually try to take control of Bitcoin. You will get ostracized. When people try and attack Bitcoin, if you try to do 51% attack, it's the amount of energy spent on that. It's just might as well use that energy spent to buy Bitcoin, and you will do better off. Bitcoin has this ability to expose the weaknesses and frailties of the system, and it incentivizes people to do the right thing. So this is what I'll hopefully fall back on. I think what we're seeing now is a correction that there was maybe, I'm not going to go as far as saying what Coldcard did was something in bad faith. It was maybe a bit of, they should have looked at their code better. They should have been open to criticism. They should have been open to an audit or whatever it is. But it shows that Bitcoin we can learn from this, correct it, and we can become stronger. And that's Bitcoin's anti-fragility in action right now. So we have to see the positive of this. And I would hope now that the coins that are lost, we are up to, I don't know how many, 1,500 coins. There's like I don't know how many, what the latest count is, but
close to 2,000. Yeah.
There we go. It's close to 2,000. We're looking at over $100 million worth of coins lost. I would hope there would be an effort now to actually not compensate, but maybe in good those people. Many of those people they work. We have to thank them for losing their coins, because we're going to get stronger as this. But I hope there's some effort that we can actually get together as a community and somehow find a way to maybe pay back some of the lost coins, at least a percentage of this. And I hope those coins that are lost, we have saw that some of the tracking, that some of it's quite sloppy. They're holding it big amounts in big UTXOs. I hope they get frozen. I hope these guys will never be able to use these coins, and we're able to somehow figure it out and actually use forensics to get to them. But yeah, it's a really troubling situation, but I think we will become stronger as a result.
And Alex, with this stolen Bitcoin, do you think that there's any way for it to be spent? I mean, could there be miners in sanctioned countries that will take this Bitcoin and be willing to launder it for the attackers? Like, what is the future of those 2,000 coins that have been stolen?
Well, the thing is that Bitcoin's key ability or key fact about Bitcoin is that you cannot actually freeze Bitcoins. Yeah, no one could freeze Bitcoins. You can only freeze the way to use them as the gateway between fiat world and Bitcoin world. Yeah, at this point, of course, I would love exchanges not to accept these coins. Yeah, and it already has happened in the past. It's not the first time coins are stolen. Yeah, and unfortunately or fortunately, there are ways to launder them and to spend them, and it is going to happen. if you like it or not. Yeah, I am with these people, and I by no means I'm happy about this situation, but it is Bitcoin. It is the way we all agreed when Bitcoin started to play by the rules. And the rule is there is no way to return the transaction, to reject the transaction, to reverse the transaction. So that's it.
Sorry, when I meant frozen coins, of course you can't freeze Bitcoin. I meant harder to spend.
yeah, of course. Yeah. Of course, I just explained.
But thanks.
Yeah.
And now when it comes to self-custody, Philip, I'm sure all of us, I mean, you were using a MK3. Thankfully, it was unaffected. It was on older firmware, so you were safe. But in terms of suggesting self-custody to new people, what are you saying?
Well, we would definitely, when we're doing it at a larger scale, let's say if a nation state is going to be onboarding, we will obviously go for multi-sig. And that is the standard. That's without a question of doubt, multi-device, as safe as possible, with as much entropy as you can get. So that's what we would try and recommend to the average user as well. But there is a learning curve to that. But that's what we would like to try and battle is Jan3 Aqua is all about making the user experience as easy as possible. So we're thinking about this.
Yeah, it's a big question. I mean, I think the big phrase of the week has been multi-vendor, multi-sig, having different manufacturers.
And one other thing, when you're recommending to your friends and family, is make sure you have, and I didn't have this as well, is to have the 25th word. That's the BIP39 passphrase. Many people who were affected, who generated the seed on the affected devices, some of them had the BIP39 25th word passphrase, and that actually helped them, protected them. So it goes to show that that's a key feature if you're doing a single sig, that is, especially even with multi-sig as well. But if you're keeping to single sig, please have a 25th word.
Yeah, the passphrase has definitely protected a lot of people over the last week, and just adding more entropy on top of it. Alex, over at Aqua, how do you guys ensure that you have proper entropy?
Well, we use Blockstream's GDK algorithm to generate the seed phrase, and so far it is proven to be a good one, and it actually works the way it is expected to work. But I think we're going to introduce other ways to get more entropy, like the famous dice rolling thing, and using some other ways to make it more random. You know, like even if it would be supported the old way, when you like tap the screen in different places, or like move a mouse on your laptop, even that would help. Yeah, it is adding more entropy, which is more randomness, which is so much needed these days, and we shall see, but we will definitely harden it more.
Yeah, I think Blockstream uses 9 different sources of entropy when creating seeds, so that seems pretty robust. And when you talk to finance ministers and people in government, Philip, does the notion of self-custody ever come up, or are these guys only thinking about institutional?
Well, yeah, that's a question that would come up, how to hold a Bitcoin. And that's a very important topic. We have a provider that we work with that can provide that multi-sig custody as well. But it's not really a question that comes up very often. You know, usually when you're trying to speak to a politician, a finance minister, it's more about what can Bitcoin do. So now who knows now with what's happened right now. But as I said, it has not reached the mainstream at all. I think I've only seen one article. Hopefully, it's not going to be too much of an issue, too much of a question. But as I said, it's helping us to become more robust, and we will be more confident when we speak to finance ministers, when we speak to politicians and interested entities out there, that we are very sure about what the safety and security that we provide for them.
And it's funny because the Bitcoin price is actually up right now from before the attack, right? So I think that goes to show you maybe our X ecosystem is a little bit of an echo chamber. we definitely know real people that are affected and have lost Bitcoin from this. But in terms of the wider scope of the whole entire Bitcoin universe, this is, I mean, the exchange hacks of the past have been much larger than this and caused much more devastation to many more people. So we have to use this as a lesson to move forward, learn from it, and help, as you said, hopefully help the people that were affected and lost
I hope so.
from this. Right. How many apps does it take to manage your Bitcoin? One to buy, one to send, one for Lightning, and another for loans. That's a lot of friction. Well, now there's Rhino. Listen to the end, and I'll tell you how they'll set you up with $10 of free Bitcoin. Rhino is a next-generation Bitcoin app that makes living on Bitcoin easy. At Rhino, you can buy Bitcoin with 0 fees. Get a Bitcoin-backed loan right in the app. Move cash globally over Bitcoin rails fast and easy. Automate your stacking with a DCA plan, so your stack is growing, whether the market is up, down, or you're touching grass. And it doesn't stop there. Bill pay, debit and credit cards, as well as retirement accounts are all coming soon. At Rhino, your Bitcoin is never rehypothecated. Security comes first, with biometric verification, 24/7 fraud protection, and the ability to move your Bitcoin to self-custody whenever you're ready. Click the link below in the description and download Rhino for iOS or Android. Use code Bitcoin News and Rhino will drop you $10 of free Bitcoin right into your wallet to start you on your stacking journey. Get the most Bitcoin for your dollar with Rhino. But now that we have dealt with this, you guys are focused, of course, on nation state adoption. I think we had a huge push forward in 2024 and 2025 in some regards for this, but maybe a step back now. So, Philip, where would you say we are in terms of nation state adoption for Bitcoin?
I say 2024 was interesting. We started the year with the announcement of the ETF, US ETF, because there was other ETFs. Canada had one years before, for example. But for the US, that's the biggest market out there. That's the most important market. It's the biggest economy. So whatever the US does is always very interesting for the rest of the world. And 2024 was a great year in terms of what's happening from the US, with then Trump being a pro-crypto president being elected in the end of 2024, and with the promise in 2025 of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. First, it was crypto. There was a bit of hoo-ha around that. You know, we Bitcoiners put our hands up. We can't mix altcoins with Bitcoins. But then that obviously was then settled that it would be different. But then there was a bit of a letdown. And towards the end of last year, that they hadn't actually come up with a strategy of actually how to acquire the Bitcoin at all. So what they still hold right now is seized coins, and a lot of seized coins. So yes, you could say it would seem like a bit of a letdown, but that's the US. I think if you maybe live in the US, that's all you hear and see. I understand, but outside the US, I see lots of people moving. We've been speaking to a few people, a few governments around the world, and there is still hot interest in Bitcoin. The bear market does create problems. 2025 was easier to spark conversations, but 2024 isn't. 2026 with the bear market right now, you have good opportunities to move into mining with hardware being so cheap. You know, I'm hearing a lot of stories out there of countries using their stranded energy and switching onto that fact and moving into Bitcoin mining, as well as a lot of AI. But as we all know, AI needs a consistent energy stream, whereas Bitcoin mining can be switched on and off in a second. So it's a functionality that it's unique to Bitcoin almost. And that's creating a lot of opportunity for stranded energy like solar and so forth. And we've seen that network is growing. That I can see a lot of interest out there. You know, we are exploring some projects as well. I don't want to divulge details, but that's interesting. And we're encouraged by that. There's also some conversations out there about strategic reserves. There's some big, relatively big countries that are thinking about it, or Bitcoin bonds as well. So, but it's still very early days. And also I always like to go back to the story of Bhutan. I think Bhutan is a great example of how you can use their stranded energy, their surplus, I should say, energy in their respect for hydro, to stack Bitcoin. And they actually spend some of their Bitcoin. And I think, they're entitled to do that. Bitcoin is not a museum. Bitcoin is something to help fund. I know the civil service to fund services, infrastructure, and that's what it's there to do. Maybe I questioned the amount of Bitcoin they spent, about half their stack. But as long as it was done in a way that benefits the country, then we're all for that. And they continue stacking stats and using their surplus hydro energy to stack stats. So that's encouraging to see. So, big tick to Bhutan. Plus they're a monarchy as well. So I like that fact.
We'll get into the monarchy discussion later. But yeah, I mean, Bhutan is a great example of actually using Bitcoin, right?
Yes.
Building a brand new airport that's like world class because you have raised tens of millions of dollars through mining with surplus energy.
Correct.
And Alex, I know you got started in Bitcoin with mining. Do you still see that as the easiest way to get governments interested in it? And also, how would you address the fact that hash rate has been falling, the longest fall in hash rate that we've maybe ever seen in the history of Bitcoin?
Well, to be fair, I never mind, and my start in Bitcoin was indeed helping one of the first mining pools, which was called DeepBit, but I was merely helping like as a software technical person. So I was just saying, I was just watching this paper share and things like that unfold in real time, and it was a fascinating experience, but I was really skeptical about Bitcoin mining back then. So unfortunately, I didn't mine myself, so I'm not a billionaire by now. But okay, that's life. Instead, I switched to making infrastructure projects, and that's how I set up the first Bitcoin futures exchange.
Wonderful. And then just regarding my question in terms of the falling hash rate that we've seen, does that concern you at all from a technical aspect and the security of Bitcoin?
No, it doesn't concern me at all, because the hash rate, if we compare it to the hash rate which was here in the beginning, it's still so many more magnitudes higher, and it's still nice. We have enough of miners out there to support Bitcoin infrastructure. So it's there was always and there will always going to be some kind of internal competitions or some other relations between miners. And the most important thing, I'm not concerned about hash rate going down or up. I'm more concerned about mining being centralized. It must be decentralized. There should be more competing companies, more competing miners out there, as they were there in the beginning. Like they were totally separate miners, totally separate mining pools. Now they are kind of consolidating and merging with each other, and I really dislike that. That shouldn't be this way.
Yeah, I mean, America has nearly a third of global hash rate within our borders, right? And I think the world.
A lot of that's diversifying into AI now. So
yes,
that's why a lot of the hash rate has gone down. And I think it's great when the hash rate goes down. It gives the opportunity for smaller players and people maybe less money in their pockets to buy cheaper machines. And now the price of the machines are great, the third of the price of what they were. Even new latest S21s, hydro cooling machines and stuff are on sale right now. So it's a good time to get into mining, put it that way. So decentralized mining, go.
There you have it. Yeah. And I know mining is a great door opener for you guys when you talk to politicians and governments.
Yeah. So I think it's one of the best door openers, really. We took many years of criticism from the mainstream, saying that we were bad for the environment, and also AI helped to take that criticism away from us. Now with the onslaught of data centers all over the world and how much energy they're using, and now all the fresh water that they're using has to be filtered, the best Evian water to cool these machines or something. Now the pressure is off us Bitcoiners. But the thing is, as I said before, AI requires a steady baseload energy to do their business. They can't switch off the machines after for several weeks. They have to run. Whereas with Bitcoin mining, we can switch on and off in minutes. Obviously, we want a few blocks to happen there, but that operability function of ours is amazing, and it's really a great tool, a great conversation starter when it comes to conversations with politicians and generally interested people. You can talk about that energy side of Bitcoin, and people start to think more about energy. It's how I became even more interested in Bitcoin. I mean, it's constantly learning more Bitcoin. Bitcoin is always something new about Bitcoin that I'm learning about. But that energy side of it is as you said before, it's a great conversation starter, especially in this day and age when we talk about green energy, this and that. Bitcoin mining speeds up the transition to renewable energy sources, and it makes it easier. For example, solar. People might have the reservations about solar. There's a lot of subsidies going into a lot of solar coming online, and as a result, there's a lot of supply and not enough demand. So solar projects are having to deal with negative pricing. So what can we do with that is you can slap a mining project, a mining rig next to it, and we can act as their hedge, and so they stay in business. And therefore, then you can also fill up their best batteries. Okay, once you fill up the batteries, the forecast is going to be hot the next day. The batteries are full. Might as well sell that energy to miners the next day while we recharge the batteries again. It's endless. Bitcoin mining really is creating an energy renaissance, and that's a great conversation starter.
Yeah, I love it. I think the energy question is one of the best examples of Bitcoin FUD being turned around to our advantage,
exactly.
Right? And so, and I'm interested in what used to be a door closer, now it's a door opener. What are door closers these days? What kind of FUD are politicians bringing to you when you open up the conversation of Bitcoin?
I mean, not so much. It's only used by criminals, but even though we talked about criminals in the beginning, first half of this podcast about Coldcard, as we concluded with speaking with Alex, it's like Bitcoin's not a very good money for criminals because it's traced. It's pseudo-anonymous and it can be traced. But that FUD is easily tackled. So I mean, the other thing is it's slow. People are afraid that it's slow. But that's what we're doing is the reason why it's slow is because it's secure, and that is part of its. That's a feature as opposed to being fast, where we build applications, we build layers on top of it to make it faster. The most important thing is it's secure, and so that's another FUD that's easily tackled as well. I mean, there's loads of different questions as well. The whole. Well, you can divide it by you can create infinite amount of Bitcoin by dividing it. So
we're talking about the infinite pizza story.
Exactly, it's an infinite pizza story it's happened a few times, and that's people don't understand that that's you still have one pizza. So really, the scarcity is always going to be there. So really at the end of the day, people are I've got to say, the conversations have come far. Quite a long way now. It was when I first joined in Jan3 in 2022 that people have studied a little bit more about Bitcoin. So the questions, people are a little bit more clued up about what it is. I think the main problems is how they can adopt it and the challenges of their jurisdictions and the legality of it. And that's one area that mining helps to break through, because doing regulating Bitcoin and, let's say, getting rid of capital gains and stuff requires law, whereas mining, you can pretty much get going with it. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm surprised you didn't bring up quantum. I thought that would be something that these politicians.
Oh, yeah, no, that's been questioned more recently. Yes, sorry, but that's also easily tackled as well.
Well, then let's hand it over to the technical guy. Alex, if you were to talk to a head of state and they brought up quantum and Bitcoin, how would you dispel that FUD?
Well, just to mention that why we forgot to mention it is that it looks like everyone forgot about it already. Yeah, so okay, it doesn't matter anymore. But the way I always bring it up, the way I always respond when someone brings it up, especially from a government or wherever else, I say that there are authoritative prominent figures out there in the Bitcoin community. For example, why don't you ask Adam Back's opinion about that? And he pretty much nicely explains why it's not a problem right now, how to deal with that in the future, and what would be the proper technical ways to tackle this problem, like as I said, properly. Yeah. So I tend to believe not just in do my own research. Of course, I do my own research, but it makes sense to listen to what real scientists, real researchers think about that. And if you read Adam Beck's opinion, it all starts to make sense. Yeah, there is no way to panic or to do other stuff. And the other thing, just try to see the current state of the art in quantum computing, like how far it is from achieving this problem. Like, is it like the problem for the next month, no, next year, or the next decade? Yeah, and if you put it this way, then there is not so much of a problem out there.
Yeah, I think theoretically they are getting closer to quantum breakthroughs, but we still don't have the physical computers, right? And those are what you need to actually do any of this cryptography breaking.
Well, they're very expensive, and also there's better targets than Bitcoin. Yeah, and easier targets.
True. Well, Alex gets the easier questions because they're technical and they have a technical answer. But Philip, I got a ethical question for you. One day we are going to have to deal with the quantum question, and that comes with the question of what do we do with Satoshi's coins? Do we leave them there as a sort of a bounty, lost treasure that could be attacked and taken by a quantum attacker? Or do we try to freeze them and make sure that they can never move and thus be dumped on the market? Where do you land ethically?
Wow, I've never thought about that. That's a good, I haven't. That's a good question. No, I think we would leave them there as a bounty, see if they can actually get to it.
I think that's the right answer. What do you think, Alex?
It is my favorite. It's actually my favorite question, and I love it the way, like, to put it the way, like, maybe Satoshi intentionally left these coins to make sure that quantum computer builders would actually be able to acquire them, and that would be a nice prize for them, nice bounty for them. And I think it would be really nice because, like, it would be used for the good of humanity.
Well, hopefully. But
yeah, well, I mean, that's one of my favorite Satoshi conspiracy theories, that he is AI from the future who seeded the idea of Bitcoin in order to get the energy build out to feed the AI, and then that will lead to quantum and a bright technological future for the world. That Bitcoin was just the seed for it all. So that's some deep science fiction rabbit hole if you want to go down it there. But let's bring it back to the real here. And one thing you guys have created recently is the B20 report, ranking the top countries for Bitcoin adoption. And top of the list, we have the USA with a score of 7.42 and a BBB ranking.
Yes.
No country received a AAA ranking when it comes to Bitcoin adoption. However, the US's stack is all based off of seized Bitcoin. So tell us about your ranking system and how America took the top spot.
Well, the B20 is not like simply a ranking of countries that are most friendly towards Bitcoin. It combines like measurable exposures with policy and geopolitical importance, and so like 60% of it is quantitative. So things like government Bitcoin holdings relative to GDP, holdings per person, state mining capacity, and debt issued to finance Bitcoin operations. And the remaining 40% is like qualitative. So like real Bitcoin use, like Bitcoinization, strategic reserve policy, and capital gains treatment. That's big. And then the final scoring is we apply a geopolitical adjustment according to the country's GDP. So the top 10 economies will receive a 40% increase, and economies ranked 11 to 20, like 15%, and the smallest jurisdictions will lose like as much as like 20%. What the question was, why the US has what was the question? Sorry.
Why the US was number one.
Oh, but why? Well, obviously it has a huge amount of seized coins, 500,000 seized coins. So they didn't acquire those, but still they have exposure to Bitcoin, and they haven't sold them yet. So that essentially is interesting, and it's notable. They also will receive that 40% from being the biggest economy in the world. And of course, they are actually quite advanced in terms of adoption, with many states not having any capital gains tax. And you know better than me how Bitcoin is treated in the US. It's treated quite well in the US compared to many other economies around the world. So that's why it's the leader, and by far, well, not by far, but by a considerable amount. But then you look at it, and people might question in the report. You'll see that UK is very high up there. Mm-hmm. It's high up there because it's got it is a top 10 economy, so it gets that 40%. But it's 61,000 bitcoins that it has in storage. It seized Bitcoin. It hasn't sold that yet, and that matters. That is interesting. But also the UK has a sophisticated financial and legal and institutional infrastructure, and they haven't banned Bitcoin. People can still use it. Yes, the government there, politicians are cold, are anti-Bitcoin, many of them. But the fact is, you can still go about doing a lot of building there. And if they have a relatively sophisticated technology sector as well, you can build big stuff on Bitcoin there. Had it suffered the fate of Germany, which stupidly sold their 49,000 coins, I think it was last year. If Germany hadn't sold those coins, they would probably be quite high up in the ranking as well. And again, it's having that Bitcoin, that exposure is interesting, and that matters. That's why we left that scoring in there.
And I hate to nitpick, but you said that the US has 500,000 coins. They might have had 500,000 coins if they hadn't sold any of them. But now, and the number is still not out there, right? We were supposed to have an audit due to the 2025 executive order. They guessed 200,000 at that time. Since then, we had this huge seizure from the pig butchering scam over in Laos and China. So that might have added another 140 or so Bitcoin. So the rough number right now we think that America has is around 320 to 340,000.
So maybe I missed. It's
the biggest. It's the biggest, right?
I'm going to look at the scoring again, because if they have 500,000 plus, they get 10 points for that. But I need to double check my notes. So sorry.
And all good. And Alex, did you have anything to do with this report, and what do you think of its findings?
Oh, of course. I participated in writing up the report, but not just not mainly as an author of this, but just some fact checking and things like that. But the actual report, I find it very important for the community, because I think it's one of the most important coverage of what happened in nation states regarding Bitcoin adoption. And of course, I was fascinated by all the facts which you already just mentioned, that discussed, and especially by America being number one, and Bhutan's achievements, and everything else happening in the world. I would not pick something like very particular, which amazes me specifically, but I'm just watching this unfold, because as you imagine, for someone who has been there since 2011, it's so nearly magical to see that now countries adopt Bitcoin, now countries hold Bitcoins, when it was somewhere it was just a project for geeks. So this is what I find most exciting.
Just to one other thing as well, the adoption thing, as I said, it's not just about friendly Bitcoin countries. Like, adoption is like a spectrum. As we talked about before, the energy question is an interesting one. So it's there's many layers of and factors of what adoption is. Even if the current government or politicians are anti-Bitcoin, they're still involved in some way. There's still some involvement in some way. Some countries have better policies than others. Some countries are more developed in the mining side, and some countries are actually holding more. So there's so much to Bitcoin adoption, nation state adoption, that the headlines, it's always hard to to be actually quite accurate with headlines, Bitcoin money in itself, Bitcoin itself covers so many aspects of our lives. And this is something that it's difficult to communicate that. Even as Bitcoin as seasoned, experienced Bitcoins as yourself, it's difficult to communicate that to the average person, that Bitcoin is not just money, it's not just transaction, it's also a store of value. It's also the mining side of it. And there's so much to that. So that's why this report is this B20 report is interesting, because some people might question the countries and how highly ranked they are, but there's a reason, there's a methodology to that. But also what's interesting as well, we try to gamify it, the B20, make it as in competition. Samson likes his games as well. So, so this is an interesting thing, hopefully it'll turn into competition. It's like, I would like to be in the B20 and stuff. What I got to do to be in the B20? Just make sure you don't sell your coins. You'll be fine next year. So there's that side of it.
Yeah, I highly recommend anybody watching to go check out this report. Just go to Google, type in Jan3 space B20, and you'll be led right to it. It's thick, it's juicy, lots of time and effort were put into creating this, and you'll have some fun seeing where your country ranks on the B20 rankings. And number 7 on the list is Switzerland. And Philip, I heard you say in a prior podcast that you thought that in terms of democracies, you're not the biggest fan of democracies. But if there's one that you do like in terms of how it's currently set up, it's Switzerland, because they have a federated system with their cantons, and they have a federal government on top that you think would be better off being a monarchy.
Yes, I've said that before.
Yes, and that might blow some people's minds, but use the Switzerland example, why they're doing well as a democracy comparatively, and how a monarchy would help them.
One word: decentralization. As you said, cantons, 26 of them. And these cantons essentially are different jurisdictions, and they all compete against each other to try and attract citizens. And they have the ability also to exit as well. And that is important. Also, their democracy is not a sort of what many people around the world used to are like proportional representation or first past the post system. They have direct democracy. The issue with direct democracy is you have to go to the ballot box maybe every 2 weeks. But here's the thing. People have become more informed. You have more informed voters. And when you have more informed voters, you have better policy. You have people who actually know what they're doing. And this in turn leads to a much healthier society that actually functions. In Switzerland, as in terms of GDP per capita, is one of the richest countries in the world, and it's pretty stable, pretty safe. And the other aspect is that with proportional representation, first past the post, when you have democracy acting in big numbers, beyond 100,000 people, is you tend to have an uninformed majority being controlled by an informed minority. That's another conversation, but I think Switzerland's interesting because it shows you that small jurisdictions, nimble jurisdictions, are easier to enact change and run day-to-day politics. Things like covering potholes, infrastructure issues, things that we shouldn't be carrying at the high level. These are the issues that are dealt with at the local level, whereas they have the federated system on top, which puts it all together. And here's the thing: no one really knows who the president of Switzerland is, and that's a good thing. And as I said before, maybe that system over there can be used, and you can put a monarchy on top of that, because at the end of the day, what the federated system can act like a monarchy as well, and that actually gives an extra element of culture, an extra element of if the country has a great pride and nationalism and has a monarchy already attached to it, that federalized system can be that monarchy, which tends to be more in charge of the long time horizon things, which are things like education, health, culture,
defense.
And defense is another thing. Thank you very much. Foreign affairs, for example, as well. And monarchies act as very good as foreign affairs. Monarchies, they tend to be quite well connected around the world, and it has that pompous ceremonial aspect, but that pompous ceremonial aspect has something to it as well, and that is that order and culture that is respected and it's respectful, and is respectful of other nations and of itself. So there's something to that. It's not, there's no such thing as a perfect system, or maybe there is, but I think Switzerland has got it quite right as the most functioning democracy out there. And another very close example, I think, is Liechtenstein as well. When that has a monarchy attached to it, with self-determination, they have direct democracy, and many times they've been challenged. The monarchy has been challenged, like their ability to veto referendums, for example. I think in 2011 and 12, the referendum was out there that was going to legalize abortion. But Prince Alois, who is the reigning monarch, well, actually his father's still alive, but his father abdicated and stepped down and gave administrative duties to his son Alois. Alois says, if they vote for legalization, I will veto it. So then the veto, there was a vote to see if they would they would get rid of the veto to the monarch. And 70 or 80% of the people said, no, the monarch should keep his veto. And that happened again later on. Why? Why does that happen? Because people are happy with the stability that the monarchy brings to Liechtenstein. And Liechtenstein is even more stable, more stable and more wealthier than Switzerland. It has probably the highest GDP per capita in the world. So shows that this stability, this continuity that monarchies provide are something that we should be exploring in many countries, so including Serbia.
Yeah, you make the case for Liechtenstein. It sounds pretty based, so I gotta go check it out.
Yeah.
And Alex, in terms of governance and politics, how do you see AI playing into this? We are libertarians. I think most Bitcoiners are, and they believe in smaller government and more freedom for the people. Do you think AI adds freedom to the people or gives it to the governments for surveillance and all that bad stuff?
Well, we would not go down to the rabbit hole of me speaking about possible future AI government, which could be a thing. I was a fan of this idea for many years before AI became the mainstream thing. But like with as I love to say, with all the important and powerful technological discoveries out there, AI could be used by governments to spy for their citizens or foreign citizens, and it is going to be used this way, along with all other fancy technologies like we see face recognition systems and all things like that. That surveillance cameras are everywhere nowadays, yeah, and where they should be somewhere, like in Lugano, watching the Satoshi statue being damaged, yeah? But there was no CCTV camera. But everywhere else where they should not be there, they were installed. Yeah, okay. So it's a question when we always have to, unfortunately, we always have to oppose governments' desire to spy on their citizens. But I think there are going to emerge new kinds of political force, new kind of governments. And take me, for example, I never was a fan of monarchy at all before I met Filip. Yeah. Nowadays, he explained, monarchy 2.0. It's a totally different thing, which amazingly I like so much. Yeah. So things change. Yeah. And I believe we could come up with some interesting ideas for government to be run by people after all.
Yeah.
The government, the state should be a service company to the people. It should serve the people, not the other way around. A great book to read, actually, is written by the head of the Liechtenstein royal family, Prince Hans II, is The State in the Third Millennium. And he puts he's a very good case about how society, how countries should be governed. And basically, the state should be a service provider to the people, competing to keep people, not to expel people. And yeah, Liechtenstein is a libertarian society. maybe they've become a little bit fiat recently because they're in financial services. But in general, when you go there, they have a big following on Austrian economics. It's a big association. A lot of the members of the family there are big Austrians. So it's really interesting. You have great conversations out there.
AI-empowered Monarchy 2.0 featuring direct democracy. That's what we're going for over here. Well, yes. I mean, as we round out this conversation, this has been one of the, if not the hardest weeks for the Bitcoin community since I've been involved in 2020. But let's look forward. What has us most excited for the future of Bitcoin for the rest of the 2020s? Let's start with Alex and then hand it over to Filip.
I think the most important thing which excites me is that Bitcoin actually still holds. It still holds its value. It still operates despite all the problems which it faced. So I'm really optimistic about the Bitcoin future.
And there you have it. And Filip?
Likewise, I will repeat what he says, but no, I won't repeat what he says because I agree with it. But I would also say what really excites me and what we talked about before is the energy side of it. I think that's super interesting, and I think that's really blown my brains in the last couple of years learning about that, and now trying to get involved in it as well. That's really exciting. And the other possibilities in the other sort of downstream effects of that, and how you can use that efficiency to create other interesting solutions to how you run your home, how you heat homes, how you can recapture that heat to heat swimming pools, to brew beer, for example, to do greenhouses, vertical farming, fish farming, you name it. There's so many interesting things to do that. And one other thing, maybe even central heating in the cities district, central heating, communist central heating, for example, in Serbia. That's an interesting thing. You know, we have these old block systems where we have a central heating that heats a whole area of the city, and they're so inefficient. You can attach some Bitcoin miners that recapture that heat and pump that into the pipes, and use that money that's by mining Bitcoin to help make the infrastructure safer. I mean, not safer, more efficient. A lot of heat being wasted as a result of these communist systems. But thanks to libertarian Bitcoin, we can really improve that. So I'm very, very, very hopeful about the future of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think one thing we've lost track of over the last 2 years with the financialization of Bitcoin is the fact that it ties together the digital and the physical through energy, electricity, and the build out of these grids. And that can change the lives of many people around the world who don't have the luxury of 24/7 constantly on electricity like we do in the West. So yeah, there's so many bright things to be optimistic about when it comes to Bitcoin because it touches every aspect of one's life. Well, gentlemen, that was such a fun conversation. We covered a lot, and I think it's a lot for people to dive into and a lot of different rabbit holes people can go even further on. So if people want to figure out more about Jan3, Aqua, anything you guys are building, where should they go to?
Go to Twitter. Jan3com is the handle on Twitter. And go to Alex's Twitter as well. He's Twitter, sorry, X. I'm kind of old school.
No worries.
Yeah.
We all still call it.
What's your handle, Alex?
My handle is Bragan Rights, but just with one.
There we go.
One G. And you've been going viral, dude. Yeah. Alex has gone viral many times over the last couple of months. So
that's why
he's
give
on
him a
X
follow
all the time. My hat goes off to you. I know.
Give him a follow.
Thank you.
Well, cheers, gentlemen. This was so much fun. I hope to do it again.
Thank you. Likewise. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure.